Welcome to this episode of In Depth with David, episode 3, that is. We are back today with another weekly chat in the news. I used to do these things on Instagram Live with my good friend Ricky. Now we're switching it over to on YouTube. So I have a list of topics here that we're going to discuss. Ricky hasn't joined yet. If he does, I will soon add him into the stream. But for now, it's just going to be me talking to you guys. And yeah, let's just get into it. So, first we're going to talk about let's see, one question I got, because on my Instagram, which follow me at SpongeSports_411, I got a question, which is, what is my opinion on people who don't obey the rules of social distancing and don't wear masks? So what do I think of those people? Personally, I think that's just a little ignorant to think that way, because there are so many people out there right now who can easily be affected by this whole pandemic and can easily contract the coronavirus, because a lot of people just have weak immune systems. So that's a very difficult situation. And I think that people who aren't wearing masks are being a little ignorant and not really aware of the people around them and how easily it is for them to contract the virus. So you've probably heard it many times, but I'm just going to say to you right now, please wash your hands every time after you go out, or every time you maybe touch a surface or something like that may have a lot of germs infected onto it. Just wash your hands, wear masks, just be respectful and aware of the situation that's currently happening in the world, and just don't be ignorant, I guess. I'll put it like that. But yes, to people who don't wear masks, it's a little ridiculous, I think, and I don't get it, Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh, yeah. There we go. I can hear you.
Okay. I'm going to turn my cam on. I don't have my headset plugged in or connected to my computer.
Yeah, no problem.
So the audio might not be the greatest, but it'll be all right, I think. So same with the camera. It's not like top notch. It'll work, though.
Perfect.
Combos.
Oh, yeah. The squad got the drip.
Yeah, that is drip. It really is.
I guess, I'll just restart. So I'll just do my intro in like 2 seconds. And I'll cut this all out after. Okay. 3, 2, 1. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of In Depth with David. This is episode 3 of my new podcast. And today I'm joined by my good friend, Ricky. We usually do these weekly chats on Instagram Live where we just talk about the news or any questions that you guys sent in, but we're switching it up and doing it on YouTube this week. Ricky, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm doing good. Hanging in there.
Great. Glad to hear it. So the first topic that got sent in was talking about, or it was a question, and it said, what are our takes on people who don't obey the rules of social distancing and refuse to wear masks in public? So get started with that.
Do you want to go first, or
you can go.
What are things? All right. So I personally have a huge problem with it. I just feel like it's kind of disrespectful to essential workers and people who work in healthcare. It also just shows ignorance, because if people are talking about wanting to flatten the curve and everything, and the only way you can do that is through following social distancing. And I know it's frustrating, like, don't get me wrong, but I really feel like people should follow it. I mean, I know it's tough to listen to the government. I know it's tough to listen and, not be able to make your own decisions. But just for other people's safety, for the elderly, for essential workers, it's just the respectful thing to do. That's my honest opinion.
I completely agree. And I forget who tweeted out yesterday, but I saw a tweet from someone saying that these essential workers in the healthcare field, they wear masks for like 24-hour shifts straight, and we can't wear a mask for like 45 minutes. I think that's a little ridiculous. I agree with you on that. Yeah, it's just a little ignorant. I think you hit the nail on the head, because you don't realize so many people have such weak immune systems, and they can easily contract some sort of virus when they go out in public just to get their simple necessities at a grocery store. So, just wear a mask and, be respectful to people around you in public. Keep 6 feet apart. The people who don't socially distance, I think that's just a little ridiculous. It's not that hard to do it. You probably were doing it before this whole thing and you didn't even notice it. So, it's just don't be like a delinquent, I guess, in public. Just, be respectful and be aware of what's going on in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing that came up. So we're going to get into a little bit of sports here. The NHL announced a new playoff format yesterday. The commissioner, we don't have a return date yet, but he announced the new playoff format with 24 teams, the top 4 seeds in each conference getting a bye, and then the remaining 8 seeds getting playing like best of 5, I believe, play-in rounds or something like that. What are your thoughts on the new format?
I like the buys for the teams that had the best records because I think that's only fair, especially for the Bruins. Like, it would just be so disappointing. It just the weird fluke that they would be matched up against one of the low seeds because they're the top seed and they would lose. Like, that would just really frustrate me. But I actually like it. I'm glad the NHL is returning because that was probably, in terms of priority for me, out of MLB, NBA, and NHL, I was really prioritizing because of last year. The Bruins, that was such a unfortunate loss in Game 7. Yeah, I
hate to bring it up, but yeah. I get what you're saying.
So I think I like the format. I like how they're also shortening it to best of 5 for the first few rounds, or for the first round, and then I like the bye system too. It's a little bit like what the NFL does too. I like that. I definitely think that could be cool. And I'm glad hockey is going to be starting back up because I'm really looking forward to that. I even got my Bruins shirt on today. So.
Oh, right on. There we go. The only thing I'm worried about with this new format, I like it. I don't know how I feel about them having extra teams in the playoffs. That's the biggest thing for me because I'm kind of worried about a top seed getting screwed by like a bottom seed like Montreal just going on a huge like epic run. And that's kind of what scares me. And I mean, it's great that the Bruins get some more rest because they deserve it because we had the best regular season. I think we finished with the best record, most points. So we're getting rewarded for that. But more rest is kind of a blessing and a curse in disguise because, rust comes into play. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how the Bruins do this year in the playoffs. I think we have unfinished business. I said last year, I think I remember talking to you about this where it hurt so much last year losing to the Blues because I feel like that was our last chance at winning a cup. Mm-hmm. But this year, I really feel is like our last chance.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. Like this team, this is the peak of the team. I think it's only going to decline after it because everyone's only going to be a year older. Because, I mean, the Bruins are a relatively older team. I mean, everyone's getting up there in age. Marchand, Bergeron, Krejci, they're all in their 30s. Charles, 41.
Yeah.
Pasta's going to be 24. I mean, Pasta was on the menu yesterday for the 24th time in his life. Hashtag dad jokes. But yeah, he's going to be the face of the franchise for a while. But I mean, other than him, I mean, you got McAvoy and a couple young players, but this is the last chance, I think, for the Bruins. So I hope we can make the most of it and take home the cup this year. Do you think whoever wins the championship, do you think they're going to get the respect they deserve, or do you think it's going to have like an asterisk next to it, like the Houston Astros did in 2017?
So I actually thought a lot about this myself, and they were talking about it on different sports radio shows and TV shows that I've been watching and other people's like YouTube channels. I personally think it depends on the team. I think if it's a team that's a lower seed that winds up like going on a miraculous run, like you said, Montreal or some team that was either just on the cusp of making the playoffs or was the lowest seed, like a 4 seed in their division, I think that people would see more as like the COVID champion. But I think if a team like the Bruins won, I think they would get their respect just because of how good their regular season was and the whole unfinished business thing that you talked about. I feel like if like the Bruins won, or even like St. Louis for whatever reason won again, or even like a team that's like one of the top teams in the league, I feel like if a top team won, people would still be okay with that and respect that. It definitely would be different because they didn't play an entire season, but they did get more of the season in than the NBA did. So I think out of the different sports, like the NBA, I'd see more of like the COVID chant. But I think if like a top team won, I don't think people would care too much. At least I wouldn't. But if a lower seed team went on a run, that'd be really weird. I'm not sure how to feel about that.
Yeah, I agree with that. If a lower seed kind of went on a run, it'd feel kind of cheap because they're the ones that are going to benefit the most from this break, or they probably have benefited from it because, they're getting a locked in playoff spot and they can just, any team can go on a run in hockey. Like, I think we can both agree that hockey is probably the least predictable playoffs, I guess. Like, anyone really in hockey can win because, I mean, the way I look at it is home ice advantage doesn't matter as much as it does in like a sport like basketball, football. I guess you could even throw baseball in there. But I mean, it was so unique with the team. I mean, I don't like to give them credit. Well, I will give them credit. The Blues deserved to win last year. We choked. I think that's agreed upon.
Yeah.
But what was so unique about last year's run was that the Blues were in dead last in the whole league in January, yet they fought and clawed their way to, I think, like an 8 seed or a 7 seed in the playoffs, and they ended up winning the whole thing. And that was just like over the course of a regularly paced season. Whereas I feel like if a team were to do that now, like you said, it'd just be a little weird because it wouldn't feel like they accomplished anything because they're on the same level as these other teams because every team isn't playing. So every team's going to have fresh legs. And it's just not going to feel as significant because essentially every team, it's essentially the beginning of another season when the league resumes because everyone's going to basically had like a 2 to 3 month break. So it's going to be like a mini off season in itself. But yeah, I'm excited to see when that comes back. Hopefully it comes back mid-June or so. They haven't announced a date yet, but look forward to that. Then the next thing is the MLB return. There was some news this week that the MLB and the MLB Players Association are getting farther and farther away on a return date due to disputes about players' salaries and things like that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think we're going to see the MLB this season?
I don't know. I hate to like blame players and organizations, but I mean, I don't know, honestly. I'm leaning more towards no baseball for this year just because we're getting now almost in June, and I know they talked about a July return date. I saw even Memorial Day at one point, late May, back in like March or April. And it just feels like it keeps getting pushed further and further back, like you just said with the news. And I think with players too, people are just like putting their foot down and they're like, no, I don't want a pay cut. I don't want to be paid less. And I am kind of annoyed by that. At the same time, I kind of get it. Like I get like if you're making like 20 million plus a year, like you want to make your money. Like don't get me wrong. And if you're a top player in the league, somebody like a Mike Trout or a looking even at pitchers like David Price who have massive contracts, like I'm sure they want the money and I get that. But at the same time, they kind of need to be somewhat accepting. And they're going to lose that money if the season doesn't come back. So I feel like there's going to eventually be a compromise just because players want some money. But I feel like the season is going to be very, very different. I don't even know how many games. I don't even know if it'll be 100, maybe less. But I think if it returns, it'll be late summer and then maybe like August, September, then playoffs or shortened playoff. But yeah, and I think it really depends on players too. I saw some like a chart on like the different pay cuts and like how a 20 mil salary would be reduced to like 5 million or something like that. I don't know if you saw that or if that's completely accurate, but I definitely think that with all that, like, I don't know. It really depends on players too.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about that because I have an ESPN article up as one of my tabs on my computer, and they use Mike Trout, like you were saying, as an example. So, in a regular season, he makes $37 million a year.
Right.
And with this new proposal, his salary would go down to $19 million. So that's essentially a 50% pay cut, which I don't think is fair to him. That's really going to be the biggest thing, though, is the debate over salaries because both sides want to get baseball back and going up. They're up and running again. But the biggest thing is the owners or the players are fine with taking pay cuts. But this is at least how I'm interpreting it. They are fine with taking pay cuts. They just don't want the money going back to the owners because the owners are already rich enough. Like John Henry probably, if you're watching the Sean Henry, he's probably not. He has better things to do. But if he's watching this, like he makes plenty of money. He's one of the richest people in the world. So he could, this doesn't really impact him. But if baseball were to come back, he wants to make sure he's like, making money still. So because there's not going to be any fans this year. You know, I think that's pretty much confirmed. If baseball were to come back, there's going to be no fans in the stadium. But the biggest dispute is about money, and I don't know if we'll be able to come to a compromise about that, because it's not really smart for the MLB to be attacking their best players' salaries, like the Mookie Betts of the world, the Mike Trouts of the world, the Bryce Harpers of the world.
Mhm.
They're the ones most impacted by this new proposal, and they have the most to lose. So obviously they're not going to agree to it. It all just comes down to finances, because all sports, regardless, are losing money. But, the MLB obviously wants to make that back up in some capacity. And the proposal right now is that there would be an 82-game season with like a 30-day spring training starting back up in June. And then there would be like three divisions or something like that, and it'd be based on geography. So like the Red Sox would still be with everyone in the AL East, and then we'd also be with like Pittsburgh, Miami, all the Florida teams and all that. Like all the teams that are geographically close to us, so we don't have to travel much, which I think is a smart idea. And I think if baseball is to come back, that's going to be the case. But I'm with you. I really don't think baseball, or I'm not going to say it's not going to come back, but at this point, it's not looking good, because we're heading almost June. Shout out Flight Reacts. And if we can't come to an agreement, then I don't think it's looking good for baseball. But we'll see. I would give it maybe another week or so, because like we were saying, the players need a month or so to get back into shape and have like essentially another spring training. So it's going to be interesting. Next thing, we're going to switch to the NBA now. So the NBA, it's looking better and better that they're going to be coming back. And there's rumors that with their playoff format, they're going to be eliminating conferences when they return. And they're just going to seed the teams 1 through 16.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you like that format, or do you wish they stick to conferences?
In terms of being a Celtics fan, if we're matched up against Philly, which is what I've seen in that proposed 1 through 16 thing, not really, because we always kind of struggle against Philadelphia, and it's because their team is big. I mean, their point guard is 6'10". So like and can't hit a jump shot, but at the same time, Kemba Walker's like 6 feet. So there's a lot of height mismatches, and even like Tice and Cantor and guys like that aren't like the biggest centers, and they've got a lot of big guys on that team, for one, and for two, they always seem to beat up on us no matter what. So it'd be a tough series, but I think as in the league as a whole, I kind of like it. I think it's kind of interesting. It feels almost like a 2K simulation.
I was going to say
all the random teams. But I think in terms of lower seed teams, it could definitely help them too, like the NHL. I mean, I don't know if teams like Orlando are going to really even make it out of this first round, but there's some lower seed teams in the West that I think could definitely make a push and get maybe out of the first round. I mean, teams looking at the standings, I can't quite remember. I think OKC was like 5 or 6. I could see them doing better than expected, and some of those lower teams, because the West is so good. And even the East, I think some of the teams that are a little below the Celtics, like the 4, 5, 6 seed, you could see them going a run too. Indiana, maybe, teams like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the Celtics would be faced up with the Sixers in the first round, 2 years ago we beat them in the playoffs. That was a pretty good series. We beat them in 5 games. Obviously, that was a different team, but I do agree with you. They kind of struggled this season, the Sixers. They never really put it together, but I feel like come playoffs, they're going to be a bit of an issue with the Celtics, because matchup issues. I think Ben Simmons is going to eat Kemba Walker alive. I mean, I think Kemba can hold his own offensively, but Kemba's a lot similar, and I love you, Isaiah Thomas, but the Celtics have had kind of like a trend lately where our point guards are great offensively, but they're kind of defensive liabilities.
Right. And,
Kemba can hold his own, but, I mean, I don't really trust him against Ben Simmons, and that's not to his own fault. It's because Ben Simmons is 6'10". Joel Embiid is going to eat Enes Kanter alive and Daniel Tice alive. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. I would say, and they did beat us 3 times this season. I want to say the Sixers 2 or 3 times. They pose a lot of issues. I would say that's a tough thing. I'm personally not a big fan of this format because I don't know, because you said you saw like a picture of it with all the matchups. Have
Yeah.
you taken a look at it? When I looked at it,
Too.
say that one more time.
I'll actually pull it up too if you want to like a reference.
Yeah, sure. We can talk about that for a bit, but from my understanding, it gives LeBron like a free ride to the finals, in my opinion, because first round he faces Brooklyn. Brooklyn's already pretty much. They haven't come out and publicly said this, but we know Kyrie and KD aren't going to come back, and it's only Spencer Dinwiddie, so they're just going to probably sweep them in 4 or 5 games, or win in 5 games. Then next round, I forget who they're facing. Like I think it could be like Denver, Toronto, something like that. But no one really poses a big threat to them until they meet the finals. So I feel like it's just kind of a free ride for them to get to the finals. And I'm not a big fan of that because I feel like it's just a cakewalk for the Lakers. And I mean, they had a great regular season, but their side of the format is just so easy. Like Denver's not going to take them down. Houston, I don't think can take them down. Toronto, I mean, LeBron's LeBronto. That meme's been sparked for years. He owns Toronto. I'm not a big fan of it. And the Celtics, if that's the case, we have a very tough road ahead of us because even if we do get past Philly, then we have to face the Clippers or the Mavs in the second round. And yeah, I have it right here actually. So let's get into this. So
Yeah,
I guess we can
up too, actually, just FYI as well. So that'll be
yeah. So I guess we can talk about like each matchup. So in this proposed format, Bucks Magic, who do you think wins that? I think we can both agree on this. Bucks and 4 or 5. So I think, and that's what the matchup would be in real life, the 1 seed versus the 8 seed in the East. So that doesn't change anything. Let's see. Heat Thunder, that could be an interesting series. Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero versus Chris Paul and Steven Adams. I'd give the upper hand at the Heat. I just think they're a little bit better of a team, but the Thunder have overachieved a lot this year, and Chris Paul is playing like vintage CP3. But I'd say like the Heat, maybe 6 games. I don't know what you think about that.
That's definitely fair. I definitely second that. I think Miami was really a sleeper team. I did not expect them to do as good as they did, and I actually really like that roster a lot too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And same with OKC. Both those teams, those are like my East and West sleeper seeds. And I'd say Miami's probably my second favorite team in the East and my second favorite team after the Celtics. So I definitely am okay with seeing them do well. And I like OKC too, CP3 and all them.
I'm happy for them because a lot of people thought that they were going to be terrible this year after they traded away PG-13 and Russell Westbrook. And they have overachieved a lot, and they are set up for the future. They have a ton of draft picks, so they're a team to watch for years to come. And CP3 is doing great. I mean, he's on a terrible contract, but he's a great veteran presence. Clippers Mavericks. I feel like this could be an interesting series. I don't know. I could see that going 7 games. I could say maybe. I think the Clippers will win because I think they're the better team, but Luka and Kristaps, I think, could push it to 7.
Yeah, I could see that too. The Clippers are my team in 2K, so I kind of know that roster in that sense and like the players' strengths and weaknesses. I think the big men, I'd say for bigs, Kristaps is a better big than Harrell and some of the guys.
Definitely.
Harrell's definitely an undersized center, and they have some really good, like they got a great shooting guard and a great small forward and a decent power forward. I think Morris was the starter. And then guard they had, was it Reggie Jackson or Pat Beverly that started?
Pat Beverly.
Okay, so yeah, they have a decent point guard. I'd say point guard, I'd give it to the Mavericks, obviously. Or it kind of depends. Luka could play shooting too against Paul George. I think that'd be a cool matchup. But point guard, they definitely have an advantage. And power forward, if they play Kristaps at power forward, they have a huge advantage. Or if they play him at center, I think they still do too. But I don't know. I think the Clippers would probably pull it off in 6 or 7 just because of Kawhi being clutch in the playoffs.
Oh, definitely.
A huge factor.
That's a defensive nightmare. The Clippers lineup is probably the best defensive lineup in the NBA. Best starting 5. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those players. The only thing is, and just to quick go off on a tangent here, this format does kind of benefit like the teams that did better in the regular season, I guess, because the Clippers would probably have a better path to the finals, but they did all the load management in the regular season, so now they're kind of getting screwed by that. That's the only decent part of this format, because if the Clippers tried for the 1 seed, it would have been an easier path, but this is kind of rewarding the teams that had a good regular season. That's the only benefit to it. But moving on, so Celtics Sixers, we already talked about. That'd be kind of a tough series. I still think the Celtics can pull it off in 6 or 7, if you ask me. I just think we're a better team.
Mm-hmm.
And we're more we have more chemistry. The Sixers have been dysfunctional all year. I think they're too big for their own good. Like, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, Al Horford, average Al. Not having a good season with the Sixers, but I think Celtics pull that out. So then we're going to go to the other side of the bracket. We have Lakers and Nets. I think that's pretty easy. Lakers in 4 or 5.
Yeah.
What do you think, Rockets or Jazz? Who comes out on top in that series?
That's actually kind of an interesting one. I kind of like that. And it is 2 West teams, too. So they have faced each other more. So that could make the series a little bit longer. I don't know. I think Utah's got great players. And I think the Rockets are good. My only thing with the Rockets is, again, with the bigs. I feel like because the Jazz have Rudy Gobert, the COVID king, I'll call him that.
The defensive, he blocked the NBA.
Yeah. I think there could, however, be a chemistry issue because of the whole COVID thing. And I know Donovan Mitchell, from what I remember hearing, that he was kind of mad at Rudy Gobert.
He was mad, and he's still kind of mad from what it seems like, but they both have the same interests, and that's him just winning. So they're willing to put that aside just to do well, which is professional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'd personally take Rockets in 6, but I think Utah could definitely win a couple games in that series and make it competitive. I don't think it'd be a sweep or a 5 game. I'd say probably 6, maybe 7, but in terms
of the support, by the way, from JManR6789, I appreciate the support. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, I definitely think on the in terms of big men, obviously Utah has the huge advantage over Houston, but I mean, James Harden, if James Harden goes off and Russell Westbrook go off, then you're gonna have a pretty good offense there. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'd probably say Rockets in 6, but Utah could definitely do something, and they could pull it off. I mean, I don't doubt that.
I'm thinking Rockets as well in 6 or 7. It's all depending, and I think the X factor is Russell Westbrook and James Harden and how they perform as a duo, because I think I remember talking to you about this over the summer, where when we first heard Westbrook got traded to Houston, we realized that duo could break records together because they're so explosive, both of them offensively. And I feel like if they can both go off every playoff game, score 30, 40 points each, you can't beat them. No matter, I mean, Rudy Gobert's great, Donovan Mitchell's great, Joe Ingles is a great role player. But I mean, no matter if Westbrook and Harden just go off, there's no beating them. That's my opinion. Plus, before this whole pandemic stopped the NBA, they started playing a small ball lineup with PJ Tucker at center, and they were actually doing really well. I think they only lost 2 or 3 games since they made that switch. So that's kind of deadly. If they can put all the pieces together, which I think they will, I'm going to pick the Rockets as well for that series. Mm-hmm. And then the next one, we have the Nuggets and the Pacers. This could be an interesting one.
Yeah. I don't know, actually. I like that series. I think that and Heat Thunder are probably the 2 most interesting ones out of all of these proposed.
I agree.
I don't know. I could take either of those teams. I think it depends on player performances, honestly, because there's definitely good talent on both teams. I mean, Joker is Joker. I mean, he's a great all-around center.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Oladipo, he kind of came off injury, so he wasn't explosive, but I don't know. I don't know if he's been training or had time to, kind of improve his game and get back to how he used to be. But I think if Oladipo comes back and he's really solid like he was before his injury, I think that could be a huge X factor for the Pacers. And then Sabonis is obviously a really good player as well. And they have some other pretty decent guys too. Miles Turner's not bad. I mean, he's not amazing, but he's a decent enough center too. And they've got some other players too. Brogdon's their point guard too, right?
Yeah.
Brogdon's on that end too. But the Nuggets got guys too. They got Murray. They've got Joker. They've got a few other guys too on that team. I think the matchups. I can't remember the starting five for both teams off the top of my head, but I think it'd be a pretty even matchup on most positions.
I agree with that. I'm going to take the Pacers here, and maybe a 6-game series or something like that, something close to that. I just think Brogdon, Oladipo, I mean, he just came off his Achilles injury, but I think he's gotten plenty of time to rehab. I feel like he's going to be in good shape come playoffs. Miles Turner, he's solid. Domantas Sabonis, he's another solid player. I just think the Pacers, if some of those games, when we faced them last year in the playoffs, they didn't even have Oladipo, yet they kept it relatively close for, I think, 3 of those 4 games. And I feel like they're ready to take that next step this year. So I'm going to say the Pacers win this in 6. The Nuggets do have Jamal Murray and Jokic. I just don't know if that's enough.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray's going to have to really do well. Jokic kind of had an off season this year. He was so good. He just didn't do as good as he's done in the past. I think they're just going to have to do really well to beat the Pacers. I just think the Pacers are the better team, and I just think that they're going to come out on top in this series. And then the last series on this side of the bracket is Toronto versus the Grizzlies. Who do you think is going to win that one?
I would say Toronto has a huge advantage, but at the same time, Memphis actually really pulled things around, and John Morant is an amazing player already. He really is
should be rookie of the year.
Yeah, he
probably will be.
Yeah, and I think Zion is going to be an amazing player too. Throughout his career, but John Morant really proved himself, and he's really helped lead his team. And I feel like. And they have Jaren Jackson too, so they have a really nice bunch of young guys there, and I think they could be a surprise team. And although at the same time, Toronto, they're the defending champs obviously, and they've played really well minus Kawhi. Siakam has been great this year. Kyle Lowry's been decent enough. Van Vliet's been good. They've got some really good players on that team too, even without Kawhi. So. I don't know. I'd take the Raptors. I don't want to say 5 games because I feel like the Grizzlies could win more than that. I feel like it might be a 6-game series. I do see the Raptors winning, but I feel like the Grizzlies actually have somewhat of a chance because I feel like they're kind of hungry. They're a young team, and I feel like John Morant has really proved himself and a lot of those other guys on that team. And I think they could do something. They could kind of turn heads and maybe even make a run. I'm not sure. But I do see Toronto winning that series, but I don't see it being a sweep or a 5-game.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say, too. I think Toronto is going to win, but John Morant and the Grizzlies have a chance to push it to 5 or 6. John's had a great year, very explosive. He's going to be a great player for years to come. Mm-hmm. And he should be rookie of the year. If he's not, then that's just ridiculous. Quick little side note, I think Zion has the chance to be the most dominant player in NBA history if he works at it, but that's just a little bit of a hot take. I think he has, not a hot take, but he has a 3-game. He can rebound. He's aggressive, physical, athletic. So if Zion puts the work in, I feel like he could be the most dominant player since Shaquille O'Neal or something like that, or be the next face of the league. But going back to the series, Toronto's really just overachieved this year post Kawhi. Like you said, Siakam really played well. He proves he's a superstar. Van Vliet's a good role player. Kyle Lowry's been solid. OG Anunoby's been good. Serge Ibaka has been good. Norm Powell. The list goes on and on. They're a very deep team. Nick Nurse is a great coach for them. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to move on here. Although Memphis, like we said, Jaren Jackson Jr., John Morant, they have another guy for his first name, Clark. He's good as well.
Even Jonas Valanciunas too. He's not bad either. He's a definitely veteran to have.
Former Raptor too. Yeah. Jonas Valanciunas, great center. Looks just like Travis Kelce. But yeah, I think Toronto's a good team. Uh, this series will determine if they were a fluke in the regular season because they had an excellent regular season, but a lot of people aren't taking them seriously. That's
Mhm.
my next question for you. Do you think Toronto's the real deal this year, or do you think they kind of had a fluky regular season?
Um, I honestly kind of think they're the real deal because they have, like you said, and just looking at their roster, they have such a deep team, and a great coach. I I feel like they're still a legit team. They definitely, I mean, losing Kawhi was big, but I think guy with Kawhi, even without Kawhi, even post Kawhi, I feel like they're still slightly worse, but just there, like at the top of the competition. I don't really know. Like how to put a lot of words to it, but like I don't think they were a fluke. Were a fluke this year, um, especially in the East, which is I won't say a weak East because I think it's improved a lot in the last
Definitely.
few years from where it was. I mean, a few years ago when the Celtics were the 1 seed with IT, that was a weak
Yeah,
East.
the
But
53 win one seed.
yeah, that was a horrible East. But when KD and Kyrie are healthy, Orlando, if they play better, is a decent team. Miami's decent or better than they were. Even the Knicks in the future could be a potential team way down the line. Pacers. I think the Raptors are still a top team in the East, and I think they've really solidified themselves as that. And I mean, they've always been a top team since I've really been into basketball, and they're always a good competition and test. So I think they're the real deal. I don't know if they would win um, 2-3 rounds. I don't know if I could see them going all the way to the finals for a while, but they're definitely a team that could get at least to the Eastern Conference Finals, win a couple games there.
I agree with that. I think this year proved with Kawhi leaving, I think that's better for the future of the Raptors because that freed up more shots for players like Van Vliet and Siakam, and
Right.
they've really taken another step forward this year. Like I said, Siakam proved to be a franchise player, and it's all just coming together. It's another thing like you can have all the stars in the world, but basketball proves you need to have chemistry. And I hate to bring it up, but the Celtics of last year, we probably should have went a lot further. We just had no chemistry. The Lakers of 2012, 2013 with the big three of Kobe, Steve Nash, and Dwight Howard, they
Mm-hmm.
may have been able to make a run at the finals, but they just had no chemistry. So the Raptors are proving that sometimes chemistry outweighs overall talent, and you don't need a big three or a super team really to succeed in this league. And I think that's the trend that's going to start to happen because the Warriors and Cavs and Lakers super teams have kind of dominated the NBA the last few seasons. But it's kind of like a throwback to like the Spurs. You know, they didn't ever, all they had was Tim Duncan, who's one of the most disrespected superstars of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He doesn't get enough credit for how well he did in the league. All you need is that one good player and a lot of good players. You need one great player and a lot of good supporting players and a ton of team chemistry to succeed in the NBA. That's how I think of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Raptors have proven that. And I feel like the Raptors are going to move on, and there will be a lot of shoulder rubs from Drake to Nick Nurse this postseason.
Yeah.
One more thing about the Raptors. Do you think Kawhi made the right decision in leaving?
Mm.
I have an answer for this. I want to hear what you think, though.
I gotta say yes, honestly, because kind of like you brought up, it's helped other players develop and get even better that really started to blossom into the players they are, like Van Vliet and Siakam. And his decision to leave partially going to his hometown, as David Aldridge says in 2K every time you play the Clippers.
Yeah.
I think him leaving, it wasn't like let's burn his jerseys. It was a respectful departure. And I think he came in, did his job, and did good enough for that team and that city. Where I think him leaving was actually a good idea and a good move on his part. And also choosing not to go to a team like the Lakers was also a good move because that would have again made a three superstar team. I mean, I'm okay with duos, him and PG or Russ,
LeBron and AD.
but I don't want to see another three superstar team like we had to deal with the Warriors for a few years because that was just agonizing. So
it went from 3 to 4 with KD. Yeah, that was awful to watch, though. I agree with that. Kawhi, I understand why he did it because family-wise, he wanted to go back home. Because I think when he got traded to Toronto, he knew he's like, all right, this is only going to be a year-long marriage, but let me just do my job and let's do our best to win a championship. I think if he stayed in the East, it's tough because now that he's in the West is tougher and it's kind of agreed upon now. I think we can agree on this with if you come out of the West in the NBA, your chances of winning the title, if you represent the West in the NBA Finals, significantly increase because of how strong the West is.
Mm-hmm.
But he has to go through LeBron and AD. That's super tough. He's going to have to do that for the next couple of years. And if I were him, I would have rather gone through just like how to get through Giannis because he's already done it once. I feel like if he stayed with the Raptors, his path to the finals would have been easier. But I don't know. What do you do? You think Leonard and Siakam is a better duo than Leonard and Paul George? I think
tough.
That's a tough one too.
What were you going to say about that?
I mean, Leonard and PG are really good defensively.
Mm-hmm.
That's really tough. I got to go with Leonard and Siakam, honestly. Siakam's younger. He's got more of an upside. I feel like PG's kind of reached his peak.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we talked about this. PG is one of the most underrated players in the NBA still. He's awesome, but I feel like Siakam still got so much more room to improve, and he's so good at like 24. But that's how I look at it. What do you think about that? What would the better duo be?
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing, the point about PG reaching his peak. I feel like he kind of hit his prime already, and he had some really dominant years, definitely with Indiana, but I think with OKC too, he was very solid. I think he's still definitely a top-tier player, top 20 player in the league. But yeah, I got to go with Siakam too, especially because he's on the rise as a player. I mean, he was a first-time All-Star this year, a starter.
Most improved last year too.
Right, most improved. And he's really done everything to improve as a player since his rookie year. Yeah, I definitely would take Kawhi and Siakam at this point. I think the two of them, they're also bigger in size too. They could dominate the East for a good few more years. I could. That's one plus of Kawhi staying. I definitely will say, kind of to contradict the point I made previously.
I think just to wrap it all up, because I think we should move on so we just don't spend too much time on the Raptors. I think if Kawhi stayed in Toronto, he would have had an easier path to the finals, but a tougher finals opponent because the West is just a big deal. No joke. If he had to face LeBron in the finals, that would have been very difficult. Just to, I guess we'll do speed round with this. We'll keep going with this bracket. So based on the teams we selected to move on, who do you think wins in the second round matchup of Bucks and Heat? Who do you think wins that one?
Out of Bucks and Heat, I know Miami. I think they handed the Bucks their first loss in the regular season. Or
I think so.
A loss early in the season. I remember watching that game back in October. I would take the Bucks, but I actually really would give the Heat a fighting chance in this series. They could pull an upset. I feel like they did play the Bucks pretty well this season, better than some other teams in the East. So that wouldn't be a cakewalk for the Bucks. I can see them pulling away with the win in this series, but I'm definitely not gonna discredit the Heat for the season they've had. I definitely could see an upset potentially, but I'd take the Bucks. I'd actually have to say Bucks in 6. I'd actually say Bucks in 7. I really would. That's honestly my take for that.
I'm going to say Bucks win. I'm going to say Bucks in 6. I think it all depends on how the young players for the Heat play, Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. I feel like if they play well, like they've been playing well all season, then they can maybe give Giannis and the Bucks some trouble. But I do think the Bucks are going to come out on top of that series. I don't see it's going to be really tough for the Bucks to get knocked out. Clippers Celtics. Who do you think wins this series? This is where it gets interesting.
Clippers Celtics. That would actually be surprisingly more competitive than some people would think. Watching and remembering both of the Celtic Clipper matchups, those were two of the best regular season Celtic games, I'd say, of the year.
Best games in the NBA season,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
And Tatum played out of his mind. And I gotta, wow, this is actually more tough than I thought it would be. Now that I think of it, because like as great as the Clippers roster is, the Celtics played them really surprisingly well, and Tatum played out of his mind. There's that clip, I think Tatum broke Paul George's ankles.
Yeah, to tie the
And-
game.
Yeah, like that was just there were so many crazy, like heart pounding, like exciting moments. Like that would be such an enjoyable series, I feel like. I'd say probably Clippers in 7, but the Celtics would keep it really close because the game they lost, I think they only lost by 3 or.
It went to overtime too.
Yeah,
Both games actually went to overtime. I think the second one went to double overtime or something like that. But
yeah, it did.
like you were saying, I mean, there's so many good highlights, like Tatum dropping Paul George, fun guy Kawhi dunking on Daniel Tice. I think that's a series that's really good. I just think the Clippers are the deeper team. I hate to say it as a Celtics fan, but I feel like the Clippers are just overall a little bit better. Kawhi's always kind of given the Celtics a bit of trouble, so I'm going to say Clippers in 7 in that series. And this goes back to my idea of the Celtics getting screwed of having to face a finals-worthy opponent in the second round. That's one of the reasons I hate this format. But that's that for that side of the semifinals. So on the other side of the bracket, Lakers-Rockets. Who do you think is going to advance?
I think the Lakers are going to kill the Rockets in this series, and I know their small ball lineup has been so dominant, surprisingly, and I don't have anything against that style of play, but the Lakers are a massive team. You've got Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, AD, even LeBron is big. I mean, they've got some big guys to go up against on that team, and I just don't see a lot of driving and contact to the hole, or I'd see more like 3-point shots or maybe some mid-range. I don't see the Rockets like getting a lot of free drives to the hole or whatever. This series would be tough for them. I gotta take the Lake. I'm gonna say kind of a hot take. I don't know how other people feel. I gotta say Lakers in 5 in that. Like I just don't see the Rockets doing well against the Lakers at all in the playoffs.
That's what I think too. Lakers in 5, and the Rockets have their better backcourt with Westbrook and Harden, but as you said, they're just going to get eaten alive with PJ Tucker as their center facing Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Markieff Morris. I mean, I think the Lakers are just a way better team. No matter how well Westbrook and Harden do, I just think the Lakers are going to overwhelm them.
Right.
Last semifinal series, Pacers-Raptors.
We were just praising the Raptors for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Raptors in 5 or 6. I'd say 6. Raptors in 6.
Yeah, I think so too. Raptors are. I don't think we need to explain anymore. Raptors are just a good team.
They got enough.
They got enough praise from us. Okay, conference. I guess I'll call them conference finals. We'll just say third round. Bucks Clippers. Kawhi versus Giannis again to decide who goes to the finals. That's going to be epic if this happens.
Yeah. Wow, that's a tough matchup to. Wow. I'm going to go with the Clippers. But that's definitely going to be a 7-game series or 6 or 7. Like, I do not see it being easy for the Clippers, but I also don't see it being easy for the Bucks. And I just think based on talent alone, the Clippers have the upper hand. But at the same time, Giannis is just such a beast. It's like so hard because Giannis and Kawhi, just like those two guys are arguably the best in the East and West. And yeah, he did. That was epic when Kawhi beat Giannis. I don't know. I gotta say, Clippers in 7, but again, if someone were to say, "Oh, I see the Bucks winning," I wouldn't be opposed to that idea. I could see that happening too, as like a upset, like a surprise.
This is a very tough series for me. I don't know. I feel like Giannis is so motivated by the fact that he come into the series. He's like, Kawhi beat me last year. I had a 2-0 lead. Kawhi won 4 straight games on me. I got to beat him. Gosh, this is so tough. I don't know. I mean, the Clippers are going to be so well rested. So are the Bucks. I mean, the Clippers are just going to be at full speed. Like Kawhi's going to be healthy. PG's going. Oh God. It really all depends on how Chris Middleton plays, in my opinion, because Giannis is going to do his thing. Giannis is going to give you 30 a night, but Chris Middleton's literally got to play out of his mind, I think. Oh, God. I'm going to have to say Clippers in 7 too, but that's going to be a nail biter. And that may lead to Giannis wanting to get out of Milwaukee. That'd be an interesting side note because if Giannis can't win the series, he's got to be thinking he can't win Milwaukee, so he may want out and hashtag go to the Warriors, which I would not want to see.
No.
But moving on, Lakers, Raptors. I feel like we can't stop talking about the Raptors.
Oh, I'm just Lakers in 6.
No explanation, LeBronto. Lakers are going to dominate.
Yeah, he's just gonna walk in and he's gonna be like Thanos. He's just gonna walk in and they're just like, no, we're done. We're done.
And it's right. It's no disrespect to the Raptors. It's just the Lakers are a better team.
Yeah.
Now here we go. Lakers, Clippers, NBA Finals. It feels weird saying that. The battle of LA to decide the COVID-19 trophy, as you refer to it as.
That is crazy that's the outcome, but I have seen other people saying that, so I don't think it's really a radical idea.
That'd be before you start, this would be an epic NBA Finals, but it'd be so wrong in so many levels because it's just 2 Western Conference Finals teams. It'd be cool. It'd be the Battle of Staples Center, bragging rights for LA, but that's all I have to say on that. Continue.
I've got to go with the Lakers. And the 2 reasons that I have is, for one, I think LeBron is in this win now mentality. He has been. He's got a great group. I also think kind of similar to the Bruins currently and the Patriots when Brady was still on the team, the roster is pretty old. There's a lot of guys on that team that are late 20s to mid 30s that really don't have too much of a window left, like guys like Dwight Howard, Jared Dudley, Rajon Rondo, LeBron. They're older guys. Yeah, they've got a lot of
Jared Dudley.
Yeah, they've got.
I love the Jared Dudley shout out, but continue.
They got a lot of older guys, and I think they're hungry for that, and they're in that win now mentality. And I think that's just going to push them to their peak, and they're going to bring out the best in them. Even JaVale McGee's pretty old too. They're going to just be dominant, and I think Anthony Davis is also really hungry as well. Which was, again, kind of his motivation for coming to LA. And I also think the second reason is in a way kind of to honor Kobe. I think because it was the organization he played his entire career for. He's such a beloved player to LA. He's such a Laker legend, and him and LeBron were so close, and he was there to support LeBron the night before he died. I definitely see them going out and winning it for Kobe and playing their all and using that Mamba mentality, to use the phrase there. I see LeBron just playing like Miami LeBron and just doing the best he can at his age. But at the same time, I do think the Clippers are going to play well. Kawhi is a proven playoff, honestly, a playoff GOAT if you kind of look at some of his stats. Yeah, I'd say Lakers in 6 in that series, but I think it would be an epic matchup. And I think the Lakers just want to do it. They want to bring it home.
I think the Battle of LA would be a great ending to an otherwise kind of wild season with everything happening with COVID-19, David Stern dying, Kobe dying. And I feel like, to honor Kobe, that'd be great to have the 2 LA teams battle out for the LA legend. Because I don't know if you heard this, but he tried to leave when he wanted to leave the Lakers one year in free agency. the top team he wanted to sign with was the Clippers. So regardless, he was going to stay in LA probably his whole career. But David West told him you can't go to the Clippers, you got to stay with the Lakers. But this would be a great way to end the season. I do think LeBron, he's going to be as motivated as ever. The way he's played this year, this is the most I've ever liked LeBron when playing, because he's just kind of put his head down. He hasn't made any excuses or anything, and he's just having fun out there with his teammates. And he's playing the best basketball of his career at age 35. And I feel like he's just going to be a man on a mission. And I think he's going to get his 4th ring this year, and I think the Lakers are going to win. The only thing to remember, though, is what you said. Kawhi Leonard, and playoff P, Paul George. If Paul George does well in the playoffs, that's going to be a huge X factor. I do think the Clippers kind of have a little bit more depth, but the Lakers have more chemistry, and I feel like that's what's going to be the deciding factor in the Lakers winning in 6 or 7 games, in my opinion. But I think the Lakers come out on top here. The only thing to remember is the Clippers took 2 of the 3 regular season games against the Lakers this year, so they have kind of given the Lakers a lot of trouble. But I do think if we see this as a playoff series, that the Lakers are going to come out on top and have a storybook ending to an otherwise kind of sad and emotional season, and I feel like that'd be great to see. And I do think the Lakers are going to win their 17th championship this year, though. One last question before we end it. Do you think this year is LeBron's last good chance at winning a championship?
I think he still has another year or 2 after this. It just depends on the state of the Lakers. If a lot of those guys choose to stay another couple years. I know Anthony Davis, I think his deal's 1 year, right?
It's 1 year, and yeah, he's a free agent after this season, and a lot of people are not sure what he's going to do, but I think he'll probably end up on the Lakers, back with the Lakers regardless.
Yeah. I think if LeBron has AD, and I think if a lot of his friends that he's kind of put together on this team, I think if this year things don't go the right way, and then the playoff they for some reason either choke, or the playoffs, this format doesn't even happen or whatever, I think he still has another window of a year or 2 following this. But I think after that, it's getting the chances are getting slimmer and slimmer, just because the West has got a lot of young talent. So does the East, and I think teams are getting that weren't as good are getting better and better. And I think eventually LeBron's just going to get to the point where he's old. He's too old to play at that elite level, but he's still going to be good, kind of like how Jordan was at his old age. I think he's just going to get like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for that take.
I think this is his last good chance at a ring, because next year is going to be 36, and I feel like this is the peak. We're seeing the peak LeBron right now. He's doing it all right now at age 35. He's playing the best basketball in his career, in my opinion. And I feel like once you get past 35 as a basketball player, your career trajectory just kind of declines. Yeah, he's still going to have AD and everyone if AD resigns, which I think will happen. But the stars are aligning this year, and I feel like it'd be a disappointment if the Lakers don't win. I feel like they are going to win it all. I don't see how anyone could pick against them, because everyone's just performing so well this year. Even role players like Alex Caruso, he's playing out of his mind for the Lakers. I mean, memes aside, he's a great role player. Dwight Howard's having a great redemption season. Rondo's a serviceable point guard. AD's a great, combo with LeBron. I mean, the stars are coming together. So everything's coming together for the Lakers. I think if they don't win it this year, though, it's going to be tougher and tougher for LeBron to win, because it's going to be 36, 37, 38, 39. I think this is it for him, and I hope he gets that 4th ring. I really do. He had to deal with the Warriors team all those years, and I feel bad for him for that, because there was no chance he was being the Warriors all those years they had KD. So I hope I'm somewhat pulling for the Lakers to win this year. Obviously, I want the Celtics to win because they're my favorite team. But hey, it'd be great if they did it for Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be something to see. But the rest of the NBA season, if it happens, is going to be definitely interesting. We'll see if they abandon conferences. I'm not sure if that's what's being talked about, but we'll see if there's any substance to that. yeah, I mean, is there anything else you want to cover here? I feel like we covered a lot. We
Yeah.
probably made the whole country of Canada very happy.
Yeah, 15 minutes dedicated to the Toronto Raptors. Sorry for the Toronto remarks, by the way, Toronto.
We apologize for that, but no, I mean, the Raptors are probably my second favorite team in the East, if I'm being honest. I've always been a big fan of how they've been ran, even back in the DeMar DeRozan days. But yeah, I mean, that's just how I look at it. I think there's a lot of parity, and really anyone could take the chip this year. I think the Lakers are a little bit ahead of the Lakers, and Bucks are kind of at a bit better tier, maybe even the Clippers, and everyone's a little bit below. But really, it's anyone for the taking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unique because the last few years it's just been, here the Warriors go. Golden State, it'd be October and be, Golden State's going to win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that covers it all. I want to thank everyone for tuning into this episode of In Depth with David. It was a pleasure talking to you today, Ricky.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. I'm glad it's up and running and everything, and it looks good, the logo and everything like that. The other
thank you.
Pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, we'll have to make this. Thank you. We'll have to make this a weekly series, just like we've always been doing, just talking about the news and stuff like that. But yeah, this episode will be up soon. I'm not sure when you'll be hearing this episode on iTunes, but it will be up there at some point. We have another episode coming up soon where I'm talking to my friends from college about what to expect during the first year of going to university. So that'll be exciting. And I have a few more interviews lined up in the future. So lots of exciting stuff coming up on this podcast. Once again, I want to thank you all for listening. This was a fun time. Ricky, thanks for joining me again. We'll have to do this again next week. And we'll talk to you all later. Have a great rest of your day.